Imagine a place where time rewrites itself. A dusty mound in southeastern Turkey. Just another hill, but secrets don't stay buried forever. In 1994, a farmer's plow struck stone. The ground gave way to something ancient. Carved pillars, arranged in circles, rising from a forgotten world. Archaeologists arrived. What they uncovered smashed the timeline wide open. Ornate T-shaped pillars, each as tall as a man, some weighing more than 20 tons. That's 3 African elephants combined. Decorated with animals, hands, abstract symbols, messages from a vanished civilization. The scale was impossible. The carvings felt out of place. But the real shock came with the dating. 9600 BCE, older than Stonehenge. Older than the pyramids. Older than agriculture itself. Göbekli Tepe, name that means potbelly hill. But what lies beneath is far heavier. The weight of rewriting everything we know about human civilization. For centuries, we believed history had a starting line, where hunter-gatherers became farmers, and only then, after generations, built temples and cities. But this site came first. At Göbekli Tepe, people built monuments before they farmed. Before the invention of the wheel. Before pottery. Before writing was even invented. This place doesn't just predate history. It is the 0 point. The moment humanity stood up, looked to the heavens, and changed forever. Why did they build it? Who carved those stones? What message did they want to send 12,000 years into the future? And why, after creating the greatest monument of their age, did they bury it, completely and deliberately, under mountains of earth, entombed, hidden, erased until now? The answer is not just about stones or temples. It's about the truth at the heart of our story. When you find the oldest temple on earth, you aren't just unearthing ruins. You're unearthing the origin of human meaning itself. Hunter-gatherers, nomads. Primitive, simple. That's what we're told about the Stone Age. It's a lie. The people who built Göbekli Tepe weren't primitive. They were architects and engineers. Visionaries who looked at bare earth and saw a temple. And they built it. Without metal. Without wheels. Without any of the tools we think you need to move mountains. Just stone hammers. Wooden sledges, rope. And hundreds of people working as one. Each pillar up to 20 tons. 3 African elephants worth of stone. Carved from bedrock, extracted. Transported across miles of rough terrain. Positioned with surgical precision. Not once, but 200 times. 200 pillars, all T-shaped. All arranged in concentric circles, some nested within others. The tallest reaching 18 feet, taller than a 2-story house. Every single one intentional, the carvings prove it. Wild boar, scorpions, snakes, birds, geometric patterns. Not random marks, symbolic art, meaning-laden art. These weren't people stumbling through the dark. These were people with a vision, with a message. With something so important, they forced an entire civilization to unite and build it. That level of organization doesn't happen by accident. It requires hierarchy. It requires planning. It requires shared belief so powerful that scattered tribes abandoned hunting, abandoned migration, and committed decades, maybe generations, to moving stones. For what? A temple, a sanctuary, a place to communicate with something beyond themselves. But here's the part that breaks the timeline wide open. After they built it, after they invested everything, after they created the greatest monument of their age, they buried it completely, deliberately, under tons of earth, and then they walked away. They didn't maintain it, didn't expand it, didn't return to worship at it, they erased it. Why would a civilization bury their greatest achievement? Unless they were hiding something. Unless they knew something we don't. Unless the very act of building this temple changed them so fundamentally that they had to seal it away. Something happened. Around 10,150 BCE, roughly 200 years before Göbekli Tepe's abandonment, the sky fell. A comet fragmented. Traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour, it struck the Laurentide ice sheet over North America. The impact released energy equivalent to millions of atomic bombs. Explosions, firestorms. shock waves circling the planet. The Younger Dryas impact. It triggered an ice age. Temperatures plummeted. For over 1,200 years, the world became colder, darker, hostile. Megafauna went extinct, entire species gone. Saber-toothed cats, woolly mammoths, giant ground sloths, wiped from existence in decades. And the survivors? They watched the sky burn. Recent research suggests Göbekli Tepe's pillars weren't just temples. They were records, astronomical records. Carvings depicting the impact itself, meteors streaking across the sky, originating from the constellation Aquarius, from Pisces. From the torrid meteor stream, the exact debris field that would strike Earth. The people of Göbekli Tepe saw it coming, or saw it happening, and they documented it in stone. This wasn't primitive myth-making. This was observation, this was tracking. This was the first writing. Not words, but symbols. Symbols encoding cosmic knowledge. After the impact, the world changed. The climate shifted. The fertile land began to dry. The animals they hunted vanished. The entire ecosystem collapsed. Göbekli Tepe became useless. A temple to a world that no longer existed. But they didn't leave it to decay. They deliberately buried it, completely, systematically, under tons of earth and sediment. Then walked away. Why bury your most sacred place? One possibility: ritual desanctification. In many cultures, when a sacred site loses its power, when its gods are no longer answering, the sanctuary must be destroyed or entombed. Otherwise, it becomes dangerous, a place of contamination, a place where accumulated spiritual power could harm the living. Another possibility: preservation. They knew something apocalyptic was coming. They knew the climate would turn hostile. So they sealed it away, a time capsule, a message for whoever survived, and it worked. For 1,600 years, Göbekli Tepe lay protected, untouched, waiting, until 1994, when a plow blade hit stone and the evidence finally rose. The Younger Dryas lasted 1,200 years. Then it ended. Suddenly, the ice melted. The climate stabilized. Temperatures rose. Rain returned. Around 9600 BCE, the world thawed, and humanity faced a choice. Stay scattered, stay hunter-gatherers. Keep following herds across empty land, or plant seeds. Control the land. Build permanent settlements. They chose agriculture, but this wasn't a gradual discovery. It wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, coordinated, appearing almost simultaneously across the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, the Nile Valley, the Levant. Wheat, barley, legumes, all domesticated within a narrow window of time. Why? Conventional archaeology says climate change forced the transition. People adapted to new conditions by farming. But that doesn't explain the precision, the coordination, the simultaneous emergence across vast distances unless knowledge was transferred. Unless the survivors of Göbekli Tepe, the people who documented cosmic catastrophe in stone, carried that knowledge forward. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe show star charts, possibly calendars, possibly astronomical records precise enough to track the heavens. What if the people who built Göbekli Tepe didn't just survive the Younger Dryas? What if they documented it, studied it, learned from it? What if they understood that understanding the sky, understanding cycles, seasons, patterns, was the key to surviving the next catastrophe? Agriculture requires astronomical knowledge. Planting by seasons. Predicting floods. Reading the stars. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the earliest civilizations, they were all obsessed with the heavens, with tracking planets, with predicting celestial events. They built ziggurats and pyramids aligned to the stars. They tracked the movements of Venus. They could predict lunar eclipses centuries in advance. How? Where did that knowledge come from? One answer: Göbekli Tepe. The temple wasn't just a place of worship. It was an observatory, a school, a repository of cosmic knowledge passed down through generations. Knowledge that, when the world thawed, allowed the survivors to build civilization. The first temple, the first permanent structures, the first recorded astronomical observations, all concentrated at one site, all emerging from a moment of cosmic terror. Göbekli Tepe wasn't the end of an era. It was the beginning of everything that came after, and someone, or something, made sure that knowledge survived. The pillars tell a story, but we're only beginning to read it. In 2013, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt made a discovery that changed everything. On one of Göbekli Tepe's largest pillars he found carvings. Not animals, not random symbols. A scorpion, a snake, a bird, and something else. Dots arranged in precise patterns. At first, archaeologists thought they were decorative, filler background detail. They weren't. Recent analysis using advanced imaging and computational archaeology has revealed something astonishing. Those dots aren't random. They're mathematical. They're astronomical. They're a star map. The exact positions of stars in the night sky 11,000 years ago, not approximate. Precise. Accounting for precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that shifts star positions over millennia. Which means Göbekli Tepe's builders weren't just watching the sky. They were calculating it, predicting it, recording it with mathematical accuracy that wouldn't be matched again until ancient Babylon, 8,000 years later. How does a pre-agricultural society develop that level of astronomical knowledge? The answer might be darker than we think. The Younger Dryas impact left survivors traumatized, desperate, searching for meaning in a broken world. And what they found was pattern. The sky had patterns. The stars had patterns. The seasons had patterns. By studying those patterns, they could predict when catastrophe might strike again. They could prepare. They could survive. This wasn't superstition. This was survival science. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe encode something revolutionary, the human realization that the universe operates on mathematical principles. That observation, measurement, recording, could unlock survival. This knowledge was sacred, dangerous, only for the initiated, which explains why Göbekli Tepe was buried, not just as a ritual, but as a secret vault, a time-locked archive meant to preserve knowledge for those who would come after. And it worked. In ancient Egypt, the priesthood was obsessed with astronomical precision. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians tracked Venus with uncanny accuracy. The pyramid builders, the first astronomers, they were all inheritors. The knowledge survived, passed through oral tradition, encoded in architecture, preserved in the obsession of every ancient civilization with the stars. But the original source, the core site where it all began, remained buried. Until now. In ancient Egypt, the priesthood was obsessed with astronomical precision. The pyramids weren't monuments to ego. They were encoded records, alignments, calculations, planetary positions encoded in stone. The pyramid builders were inheritors of Göbekli Tepe's knowledge. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians tracked Venus so precisely they could predict its disappearance and reappearance with uncanny accuracy. 5 times a year they recorded its movements. Why? What were they tracking for? The answer, the sky, always the sky. Because the sky had once tried to kill them, and they would never forget. Göbekli Tepe wasn't just the oldest temple. It was the oldest school, the oldest observatory, the oldest attempt by humanity to decode the universe itself. The knowledge survived, passed through oral tradition, encoded in architecture, preserved in the obsession of every ancient civilization with the stars. But the original source, the core site where it all began, remained buried until now. We've been asking the wrong question. We keep asking, what was Göbekli Tepe? A temple, a fortress, an observatory, a gathering place. But the real question is, what was it for? What gathering was so important that scattered hunter-gatherer tribes, people with no agriculture, no permanent settlements, no cities, united to move 20-ton stones? The answer lies in the layout itself. Göbekli Tepe wasn't built for daily worship. It wasn't a sanctuary where people gathered year-round. The settlements around it were temporary, seasonal. People came, participated in something, then left. The architecture proves it. multiple concentric circles. Pillars arranged in specific formations, some circles older than others. Multiple layers of construction and reconstruction, suggesting repeated ceremonies, repeated gatherings, generations coming back to the same spot. For what? Initiation rites. Mystery schools. Astronomical observation ceremonies timed to celestial events. But the most compelling evidence points to something more urgent: the carvings of the Taurid meteor stream. The star positions that align with the period right before the Younger Dryas impact. The scorpion symbolism. Scorpion is associated with poison, death, catastrophe across ancient cultures. The evidence suggests Göbekli Tepe was built as a warning system, a place where initiated priests could track the heavens, where they could watch for signs of danger, where they could encode knowledge about cosmic cycles and catastrophe. The surrounding pillars weren't decorative. They were sentinel stones, marking astronomical alignments, tracking dangerous objects in the sky. When the impact came, around 10,150 BCE, the priests would have known. They would have seen it coming. The sky would have shown them something was wrong. Comets, meteors, disturbed constellations. Göbekli Tepe became a place of apocalyptic knowledge. And after the catastrophe, after the world burned and the Younger Dryas froze everything, the survivors faced a choice. Keep the knowledge active, risk it spreading, risk it being misused or forgotten or corrupted through countless tellings, or seal it away, bury it, make it sacred and untouchable. Ensure that only those initiated in the highest mysteries would ever know it existed. They chose to bury it, and in doing so, they created the first great secret of human civilization, a time capsule, a warning encoded in stone. For 11,600 years, Göbekli Tepe lay entombed, and the knowledge, the astronomical precision, the cosmic warning, the mathematical encoding remained dormant. But it didn't disappear. It resurfaced in every ancient civilization obsessed with the stars, every priesthood dedicated to heavenly tracking, every pyramid and temple aligned to celestial bodies. The knowledge spread, diluted, transformed into myth, but it survived. Because somewhere, deep in genetic memory and cultural consciousness, humanity remembered. Something had tried to kill us from the sky, and we had built a temple to watch for it. That temple was Göbekli Tepe, and we're still watching. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Göbekli Tepe's builders experienced a cosmic catastrophe, an impact from space, a world transformed in hours, a civilization forced to rebuild. They responded by building a temple dedicated to tracking the sky, to warning future generations, to encoding knowledge in stone that would outlast their voices. They believed another impact would come, and they were right to believe it. The Taurid meteor stream doesn't just strike once. It cycles. Every 3,600 years, roughly, fragments pass through Earth's orbit, sometimes missing, sometimes hitting. The Younger Dryas impact happened around 12,800 years ago. The Tunguska impact, which flattened 80 million trees in Siberia, happened only 119 years ago. We're overdue. But there's something more unsettling. Civilizations that achieve high levels of astronomical knowledge tend to fall shortly after. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Mayans, all obsessed with tracking the heavens, all collapsed mysteriously. Why? One possibility: they knew something. They saw something coming, and they couldn't stop it. The Mayan calendars tracked something ending on December 21st, 2012. December 21st, 1991, December 24th, 1612. The dates point to recurring catastrophes, cycles of destruction. The Sumerians spoke of the Watchers, beings who came from the sky and taught them astronomy, then disappeared. The Egyptians built the Great Pyramid, aligned to the stars with precision that wouldn't be matched until modern times. A monument to astronomical knowledge, a warning in stone. And then they fell. Every civilization that decoded the cosmos seemed to understand something terrifying, something so urgent they had to encode it in their architecture, their myths, their religious texts, a pattern, a cycle, a recurring threat from the sky. Göbekli Tepe might be the oldest evidence of this pattern, But we're repeating it. We've decoded the cosmos. We've mapped asteroids. We've identified near-Earth objects. We've discovered that impacts are not rare. They're inevitable. They're just rare enough that we forget about them between strikes. We've built our version of Göbekli Tepe. Space agencies, observatories, computer models tracking the heavens. We're watching, like they watched. But are we really preparing? Or are we just gathering knowledge while ignoring the warning? The people who built Göbekli Tepe understood that knowledge without action is just archaeology waiting to happen. They didn't just observe the sky. They prepared, they organized, they built for survival. We watch the news about asteroid threats and scroll past. We debate mitigation strategies in academic papers. We assume our technology will save us. But Göbekli Tepe's builders had something we've lost: collective belief, unified purpose, the understanding that survival requires more than observation. It requires sacrifice, preparation, faith that future generations matter. They buried their temple not out of despair, but out of hope. The hope that someday someone would dig it up, would see the carvings, would understand the message, would realize that civilization isn't permanent, that the sky is watching us, that we need to be watching back. Göbekli Tepe is 11,600 years old. It's telling us something we desperately need to hear. We're not the first to build high. We're not the first to think we're eternal. But we might be the last if we don't learn the lesson encoded in those T-shaped pillars. The sky has a memory, and it's getting ready to remind us. We found it. After 11,600 years of silence, we found Göbekli Tepe. But we're still not listening to what it's telling us. Let's review what the evidence shows. The scale: 200 pillars, up to 20 tons each. Moved without metal tools, without wheels, without technology we assume is necessary for such feats. This wasn't accident. This was engineering. This was will. The precision. Star maps carved into stone with mathematical accuracy that wouldn't be matched for 8,000 years. The pillars aligned to celestial bodies. The entire complex functioning as an astronomical observatory. This wasn't primitive. This was scientific. The knowledge. Records of the Taurid meteor stream. Documentation of the impact that would strike 200 years later. Evidence suggesting the builders knew catastrophe was coming. They were watching. They were ready. The purpose: not a settlement. Not a fortress, but a temple. A gathering place. A school for initiated priests who understood that knowledge of the cosmos was survival knowledge. The burial, deliberately sealed, completely entombed. Hidden from the world. Not abandoned, but preserved. Like a time capsule meant for future generations who would need the message. And we received it. We opened the tomb. We studied the pillars. We decoded the carvings. And we still don't understand what they're telling us. The message is simple. Catastrophe comes from the sky. It has before. It will again. Civilizations that forget this die. Civilizations that remember and prepare might survive. Göbekli Tepe is proof. The builders survived the Ice Age. They survived the impact. They survived the extinction of megafauna. They survived because they adapted, because they learned, because they built knowledge for the future. And then they passed the torch. The astronomical knowledge they encoded spread through every ancient civilization. The Sumerians received it. The Egyptians received it. The Mayans received it. Each one understood the warning. Each one built monuments to track the sky. And each one collapsed. Because knowledge without collective action is just prophecy. Beautiful, true, but useless. We are repeating that cycle. We know asteroids exist. We track near-Earth objects. We have satellite networks and space agencies and computer models. But we don't act like we believe it. We don't build as if the sky's a threat. We don't prepare like a civilization that understands its fragility. We have Göbekli Tepe's warning in our hands. We can read the carvings. We can see the alignments. We can decode the message. But are we doing anything different? Are we uniting around survival? Are we building for the next catastrophe? Are we preparing our descendants? Or are we just gathering more data, writing more papers? scrolling past the news and hoping someone else handles it? The people who built Göbekli Tepe understood something we've forgotten: that temples aren't built in good times. They're built in desperate times, when the sky is burning and the world is ending and you have to believe that meaning and knowledge and human effort matter. They built to survive, to warn, to ensure that if civilization fell, knowledge survived. Göbekli Tepe is the 11,600-year-old message. It says, you are not alone in history. Others built high. Others believed they were eternal. Others watched the sky and tried to prepare, and some of them made it. Some of them passed knowledge forward, knowledge that allowed new civilizations to rise, to build, to dream. Now it's our turn. Göbekli Tepe is telling us we're next. Not next to fall, but next to choose. Do we repeat the cycle? Do we gather knowledge, collapse, and hope someone picks up the pieces? Or do we learn the lesson that's been encoded in stone for longer than our civilization has existed? The message is there. The warning is clear. The time to act isn't tomorrow. It's now. Subscribe. Pay attention. Prepare, because the sky is always watching. And Göbekli Tepe is proof that sometimes the sky strikes back.